I don't panic. I don't get into those kinds of anxious states, but I did feel, and this is why I wanted to title the segment like, okay, this is where I'm in danger of going on quote unquote tilt, where your emotional state affects how you think and how you act.
The end state of that is shopping without shopping. Stuff just comes to you because like your personal AI knows what you need, and Amazon has shipped something. It's about to arrive at your door before you even realize you need it.
So if we really want to be pointed about it, Badge, and I'm not afraid to say it, our own beasties were the best of the best in Vegas.
So unless you keep good records, as an investor or as a poker player, you don't really know if you're beating the market, let's say. For an advertising-free version of this show, check out wallstreetwildlife.com. Welcome to the Deep Investing Jungle with your hosts Luke the Badger Hallard and Krzysztof the Monkey Pikarski. This week's show, we're talking about a Vegas recap. We went to Vegas. Did we learn anything? Plus, going on tilt in real life, at the poker table, in your portfolio. Krzysztof's going to tell us about the investor's mirror. Is it a gimmick or is it the real thing? Plus, we got a listener question on Spotify about investing outside the US.
Badge, something wild though, and I mean this literally. Have you seen the retention numbers that Beaver pulled?
Yeah, it's pretty mad. We got a massive legion of you guys watching and listening religiously every single week, but a huge chunk of you still actually haven't hit subscribe.
That's crazy. You're treating us like a best kept secret, which is very flattering, to be honest, but here's the reality. The algorithm actively suppresses content that does not rely on panic and clickbait. So it buries the signal underneath the noise.
It's like an invisible tax compounding against our growth.
Yes, compounding against our growth. That's not good. So if you are watching right now or listening on your commute, could you just check, please? Takes all of 2 seconds. Just look and check and make sure you're subscribed. We don't ask for much, right? We're just asking for this one thing.
Yeah, that is the one thing. And here's why it really matters, and we're not just saying this. We're getting close to a subscriber milestone that genuinely changes what we can do with this show.
So better guests, deeper research, better tools for you. Luke and I are trying to build something different here. We're not screaming about meme stocks. We're not selling fear.
We want the show to be something that makes you a sharper, calmer, more independent investor. That's it. That's the whole mission.
Yep. So here's the deal. You hit subscribe, the one free thing, and we keep showing up every single week, going deeper, getting better.
We have done it since episode 1.
And we are not going to stop. That's our promise from the jungle.
Thank you. Seriously.
All right, Badge. We have so many things to talk about. I even told you I basically didn't prep nothing for this show because it's all deep in here. In the lizard brain and deep in the heart. First of all, can I just say it was just so effing great to see you in person.
Yeah, likewise, buddy. We've only really, in real life, met twice now, in 2024 in Austin, and now in Las Vegas, like just a few days ago. And we need to do more, like getting together in the flesh, because it's a very different experience than just chatting on the podcast or like collaborating in a Google Doc.
Right. I'm thinking, in this age of AI where it's interesting that social media started as this thing to connect people, and then everything got, went exponentially haywire. And now you're dealing with not just content creators, but everything's AI generated, or lots of stuff is generated, and people can't help themselves from preferring the digitally made thing over the human contact. So it's a little bit tragic in that way. So I think when we meet in person and we can feel the difference and remember that we are really still squashy, fleshy, biological beings. We're cyborgs in very weird ways, right? But the fleshy thing still matters. It's just it's not on that level. It's not a gimmick, right? We're not just like meeting in person is not just either for show or for spectacle, or it mattered. It mattered deeply to me.
Yeah, like we genuinely have fun together. I enjoy chatting to you on the pod, right? It's like one of my favorite conversations every week. But getting together in real life is a bit different. And like sipping back some cocktails, nursing the hangovers, going on tilt together, can't really do those things. Maybe we have a go in our Christmas episode, but in real life and in Las Vegas, it is very different.
Yeah. It's also not, it doesn't hurt, that when do we see each other in the lobby, right? It's like, like you have just a glow about you, and you're such a energetic and good man and debonair and all the James Bond stuff. I'm like, cool, I get to hang out with my old. Hang on.
You're telling me about the glow. Like, can we just check out? I've got a few photos from Vegas I would like to look at in today's episode. If you're on the YouTube, you'll see this in all its glory. Talk about the glow. Like, check this one out, right? You talk about seeing me looking debonair in the glow. You come into the reception, or like the lobby of the Vidara where we're staying, and like literally this like shining light like pierces my eyes. There's this incredible Vegas outfit you're wearing. So yeah, you push the boat out with your attire, let alone your attitude that you brought.
Oh my God. So yes. Well, you got to dress the part. When in Rome, you wear a toga. When in Vegas, you wear the bling. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you wore the bling, my friend.
Okay, I'm going to take this conversation to a little bit of a improvised spot right now, because this is what I was reflecting on. In my own life, at that moment when I arrived to Vegas, I had several what I consider very bad things happening to me at once.
Right.
And one of them is not just, say, an inconvenience or an unpleasant thing. It's, it has to do with somebody close to me, their health and their well-being. And I'm not sure, gonna exaggerate, but like not quite life and death, but serious stuff. So that's weighing on me, right? Like that kind of heavy burden. Then another bad thing happens to me that's just from my perspective, really unfortunate and really unpleasant to deal with, and just another massive headache. And then, all of a sudden you're in Vegas, and Vegas isn't exactly known to be, mistakes can be made in Vegas, right?
Sure. Okay, yeah.
And I think in that state, I felt, another weird thing happened, actually. If I could narrate this just a little bit. We meet up and we go to a really wonderful cocktail place, right? Where we sit down and you therapize me. I go on the clock and you say you have an hour to bitch and moan and complain about the sad state of your affairs. And we do that, right? And we have these delicious cocktails. I have two. I'm not keeping track of yours. But for some inexplicable, weird reason, the next day I wake up feeling like death. And this is very bizarre. I mean, I haven't been drinking much, true. But 2 cocktails, come on. Like, I'm not that soft. Apparently, I mean, maybe I am, but... Right? But it was...
Like, just to say here, right? Like, we had brunch in the lobby with one of our good friends now on Patreon, Andrea, who helped us. Like, thank you, Andrea, helped us with a whole ton of the setup and prep for Las Vegas. And I was like, I think you popped off for a minute. The first thing I said to Andrea was like, holy F, like, is Krzysztof all right? Like, he looked so dystrophied. I'm like, damn, we're in trouble here. Like, are we going to get through this weekend?
It was as unexpected to me as it might have been to you. Here's my running theory. It could not have been the drinks themselves, because really it was only 2. My theory is that the heaviness from all the stuff that had just happened actually impacted my my nervous system somehow, then didn't sleep a full night, plus the 2 drinks, plus some weird alchemy where I just woke up feeling really, really bad. And that was the start, right? That was my start of our get together. So it was a moment where I genuinely felt, I don't panic. I don't get into those kinds of anxious states, but I did feel, and this is why I wanted to title the segment like, okay, this is where I'm in danger of going on quote unquote tilt, where your emotional state affects how you think and how you act. And the first thing I did, one, is I just recognized that. I named it. Like, the confluence of factors are that background of Vegas is it's going to try to pull me in that direction. And so I more or less gave myself a talking to. And I kind of said, I'm going to draw on my life's practices, which is to walk into the difficulty, to stay grounded, to look at the thing that's in front of me, to continue, say, doing the things like an athlete just visualizes their next, shot, steps, movement. And I really think it wasn't too long after where we just began doing the next things, and that awful feeling, the death feeling, went away, and I merged into the flow of people and activity. And my problems didn't go away, but that potentially catastrophic bad decision that Vegas wants to pull you toward, I survived it, so to speak. So I don't know if that's useful. Maybe you could make the bridge for how that relates to both poker and investing and why so many people screw up.
Yeah, like the term in poker is tilt. And actually, if you caught last week's episode, we just did like a rough edit and we shared the 2 presentations you and I did. I talked about the relationship between poker and investing, which is like deep, and that there's a lot of common skills. And you talked about why is investing so hard? Maybe this particular question of like your emotions and tilt, that kind of bridges both of our presentations really, because that was a core part of your presentation. Tilt in poker is, you make good decisions, but you get bad outcomes because, there is a lot of luck involved in the game in the short term. And if that happens to you too much, you start playing badly, you start chasing things that you shouldn't chase. You're trying to win it back, kind of playing angry. And as a poker player, if you're serious about the game, you need to recognize that's a time to step away from the table. Like, if you're playing a cash game, life is one long game. Just come back tomorrow, come back next week when you're feeling a bit more balanced. But this hits you as an investor too. Like investor tilt is a real thing, like revenge trading, doubling down on losing stocks. These can all be like, they can do serious damage to you. Whenever I see like loss porn on Wall Street Bets on Reddit, it's like that. It's like someone who's, they ran like a small account up to, like I saw one at the weekend. They ran up like $6,000 to several $100,000, might even be $1 million. But then they started to lose, and then they chased it all the way down to zero. So, you gotta avoid the FOMO and the greed and the fear and panic, because that ain't gonna serve you well as an investor.
I think I also have an extension to that badge. What you're talking about now is obviously the most, what's it called? Core, literal definition of tilt. I also think in this moment when we're recording, many investors are in tilt that's a little more subtle, but they don't know it. And this is where you and I were just talking about this before we recorded, that we know that when portfolios are down, like the current moment, markets had a pretty rough last few weeks, people tune out and they they disappear, they're not as engaged. And if it gets bad enough, and this happens all the time with these cycles, they actually say to themselves, investing doesn't work and I can't win this game. So they drop off, right? So the equivalent is they basically sell low. Then, of course, you wait, 3 months, 6 months, a year, all of a sudden market picks back up and they're like, oh, let me try this again. Maybe it wasn't so bad after all. So then they buy high. And that is the classic cycle of why most retail investors continue getting hosed. I'm calling that tilt right now because, we've been talking about this for 4 years now. If you stay in the game, regardless of how you're feeling, you're going to win using the appropriate skill sets that we teach. But most people are not staying in the game. Not like thoroughly, right? Because now is exactly why continuing to post in our community forums, continuing to ask good questions about valuations, continuing to do this internal work when things are grimy and scary, that's where the big alpha lies. And most people can't do it. It is really painful in many ways, but...
Yeah, look, totally agree. I don't like talking about real numbers on the pod, but I was looking at my year to date just a few hours ago. I'm down material 6 figures year to date, just since January, nearly almost more than 6 figures. But this is I've seen this before. These are the times when opportunity is made. I'm expecting to be down materially more than that before this thing runs its course. And I'm kind of batten down the hatches a little bit by raising a bunch of cash a bunch of time ago. And if you listen to this pod 6 months, 9 months ago, I was talking about exactly that. If you have the right disciplines and the right kind of approach to long-term investing, these are the times that you should be excited by, not the times where you get blown out of the market. But sadly, you're right. Most retail investors fail to beat the market. And this is one of the key reasons why.
Right. And I know that at moments like this, it's the institutions that are gobbling up the shares of the companies that they've analyzed and know are good values. And there's a lot of manipulation, in quotes, of price because they know they could quite easily manipulate a lot of sellers into selling into their pockets, and the rich get richer and the uninformed get poorer. Badge, I do have, we want to talk about what happened in Vegas, despite the rule. We're going to kind of narrate, right, a little bit of what happened. I do have one direct, I think, insight that now feels like a good moment to talk about. I might have mentioned this to you when we were walking across one of the casino floors, was that in this world of Vegas where we know statistically you're not going to win, in some ways it feels a little, I don't know if tragic is the word, but sad seeing so many people, not the ones that are having fun, say at a craps table, but all the many others that are just gushing money. Right. And there's no way out of that black hole. I remember feeling lighter, remembering that if we were to go to a poker table and we picked one that's, let's say, to our advantage, and it only takes one bad player at a poker table for it to be to your advantage, as long as you don't mess too much with everyone that knows what they're doing. I felt a sense of relief that even in a place like a Vegas casino floor, because I have developed this skill set called poker for many, many years, and obviously you have done even more so, that there was this safe little spot where I could, I had the upper hand. So that there was what's it called, the little island of self-curated, yeah, you could always kind of make your own odds as long as you're discerning about it. If you took away the poker angle from Vegas, I think it would be even more dastardly place to visit. And most people don't have that.
Well, most poker players are losing poker players, right? But it's one of those divisive games that there's enough luck that even if you're not a winning player, you'll win enough that you'll convince yourself you're better than you really are. So unless you keep good records as an investor or as a poker player, you don't really know if you're beating the market, let's say.
You just think you are, right? Yeah. Yeah, I remember during my heavy playing years, it took me 2 years, I think, to break even. And then it was in my third and fourth years that I had the hourly wins, though I was playing tournaments. So that's still different than cash games. But yes, that kind of fact checking and that kind of spreadsheet, it gives you actual statistical confidence that that is true. And I'm talking about, forget even the statistical fact that you could learn to make money if you do it smartly. It's more this feeling that there's still, through hard work and discipline and the right mindset, you could put yourself in a favorable position despite all the craziness that is around you. And most people, I mean, just numbers wise, right? If you count up all the people on a casino floor or in Vegas, what's the percent that we could call skilled poker players that are either neutral or a little bit positive over time? It has to be a tiny percentage, right?
Yeah, there's like true pros, and then I guess you've got like a cohort of skilled amateurs, which I kind of put myself in that bracket. And then you got recreational players who are literally just there to have fun and feel like James Bond for, a couple of hours.
Yeah, so maybe the insight I had was, despite whatever the market / the casino floor is offering you, there is a way with due diligence to carve out your own little safe space. And I felt relief having that insight. So, and then of course I lost.
You cash in the poker game. So here's you cashing in. There's a couple of hundreds in your hand there if you look closely, in your sparkly shirt. So yeah, and I think your shirt was quite popular when we sat at the cash game on that first night.
It was. We also had the conversation that I didn't quite realize it at the time, but the shirt announced me as a complete noob and a tourist. Though I am really shaky and rusty in my poker skills. So I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's not like I'm at the top of my game. But it didn't occur to me that was gonna be a mark, and it might have been to my advantage to play like a noob, give a false profile, and then kind of get more aggressive and steal some pots through a sleight of hand. So I think the shirt paid for itself.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Definitely. The shirt worked in your advantage. Sadly, the shirt didn't save you, though, in the official King of the Jungle Poker Challenge on the last night. What happened there?
What happened there? I don't know. I was drinking too much. I can't remember. I can't remember what happened. Okay, this is going to take a lot of internal fortitude. What happened was that we had a really lovely, curated Wall Street Wildlife poker tournament. Hands were dealt, hands were won, hands were lost, and the beastie that won the hands that mattered was our very own Badger.
Now let me just for clarity, so people listening to the pod don't think I went out there to like steal money off our Patreons. We did play for real money. Yes, the winnings went back into dinner, so I didn't claim any cash from the event, and it was my intention going into the poker game, because we're playing a tournament. I'd been playing a bunch of poker, and some of our Patreons were very new to the game. And by the way, thank you to the Golden Nugget, and particularly Brian and Joel, because they put on a great game for us. So that worked out really well. It was my intention to knock you out, win the $50 monkey bounty, and then sacrifice myself to a Patreon. So I was trying to amass chips. I was trying to play well at the start so I could then take you out. sadly, unfortunately, what happened to you happens to the best poker players. You got it in with the best hand and like a bad run out, and you were probably 93% to win. But
94,
unfortunately,
94 if we're being,
94%,
if we're,
yeah. But it was Andrea. In fact, Andrea's ace queen, as I remember, she hit 2 pair on the river and took out your ace jack top pair top kicker. So so it was not to be, unfortunately, and you were knocked out.
Right.
So unlucky.
Yes, and at the same time, you couldn't lose, no matter. There was we should have transported you to the $2,000 with your streak, but it was lovely. It was right. So the poker gods did what they did. You were so magnanimous to donate your winnings to that delicious Mexican dinner. But it was, in all sincerity, here's. I hope this doesn't sound too harsh, but we were obviously the only ones that have years of experience. Everybody else at the poker table was very new to the game or just playing with the basics. And it's so interesting the gap between how we understood the cards and how everybody understood the cards. And we were trying to coach our Patreons. And even this is the weird thing, right? Even when you as encouragingly try to guide somebody to the proper mindset, be very aggressive or fold, for example, which I had that talk with several. When you're in the middle and the cards are coming out, you think, oh yeah, Badger said do this. I really think I'm following, but they're, reality doing something very, very different. It's hard, right? It's hard. It's not all of these principles that we teach. You can't do it in the abstract. You can't just be told something and think, oh yeah, heard it once. I'm now, and I'm now a good poker player. No, it takes hundreds of thousands, not thousands of hours of learning the hard way. And
to be clear, I do not recommend becoming a poker player. It's kind of a tragic waste of time. I did learn a lot of investing skills in the game of poker, and I made some incredible friends, but I also had several hundred pretty miserable hours along the journey too. So it's not a good use of your time. It doesn't add much value to society. But anyway, if our Patreons want to practice their poker game, well, we gave them a little giveaway. It was a gift we gave out. You and I have a big stack of these. We made some special Wall Street Wildlife Become a Beast of an Investor playing cards. So
look at
our
the
Patreons,
badger at the top. Look at that. Look at
the badger at the top.
Devil.
Yeah. There's a monkey in it somewhere. There's a jungle cat, a vulture. Every card, every suit has a particular theme. Every card in the deck has a piece of investing wisdom. I'm trying to find the monkey. He's in there somewhere. Was he the King of Hearts, isn't he? Anyway. Here he is. Here's the handsome monkey. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, look at that fella.
The monkey's wisdom. Know your inner primate. Know the game you're playing. So anyway, 52 pieces of investing wisdom in this deck of cards. If you didn't come to Vegas, you didn't get one. If you take me or Krzysztof for cocktails or for lunch somewhere in Austin or London, I don't know, I got a big pile of decks back there. Maybe I'll bring one in exchange for an interesting lunch. You got to bring the good conversation though. I want some investing DD and have a fun chat about this passion that we all share.
Yeah, fantastic. I do love what you just said about Poker Badge. It's true. The thousands of hours that went into learning the hard way, that school. Yeah, there is a sense that, especially, when you're in the middle of one of these runs where it doesn't matter what you do, the fates just have it out for you. You think, what am I doing? I think maybe and it doesn't help anyone in as much as the NBA doesn't help anyone or the MLB doesn't help anyone. I mean, there's lots of human beings. If we zoom out a little existentially, meaning is created by us. It's not, there's no outside source. And so there is a way of playing poker that is self-defeating. It's kind of nihilistic. It is kind of, if you're only there to, say, make money in a particular way, it's just exchanging your time for the numbers to match up. But the counter to that is what I was saying before, and what we've been saying for such a long time. It's like a very real sharp playground at the battlefield, where you can really witness how you react under stress, under pressure. And it teaches you. There's no other way, right? You can't fake it. And that's why home games don't work. By the way, I've said this so many times. By home games, I have yet to encounter maybe one home game where you're with friends and you say, let's play poker, and everyone's cool. That'll be fun. And everyone, without fail, says, okay, let's play for $20. And I'm like, that's not poker, because you wouldn't be scared to lose it. But nobody wants to ever play for higher stakes because they're scared. So they're not playing poker.
Come to London and I'll drop you into my home game, and I guarantee you'll be scared.
Yeah. Well, normie, right? But your circle has poker related, pro. I'm saying the normal
right.
person doesn't want to engage in the fear aspect, which if you take that out, it's no longer the same thing.
We're probably going way too deep on poker, but there is something there about like practicing being comfortable with fear, being comfortable with uncertainty, volatility. You think you're making a good decision, but still, luck has a major role to play. And that is a learning that will make you a better investor. And probably other ways you can explore, like being comfortable with fear. I'm scared of heights, so, putting myself in situations where, the vertigo starts to kick in. I feel like that's probably something I should do more of.
There's a building in Taipei that you could climb.
Oh, yeah. That's a little extreme.
Do we want to tell our listeners about what else we did in Vegas?
Yeah, let's, because we didn't just play poker and have fun. And we did the presentations in the suite, but we actually had like a whole day tech tour. And let's just touch on some of those, because we had some great experiences. That was your first experience of checking out an Amazon distribution center. Second time I've been. What did you make of that?
Yeah, it's impressive. It's impressive, the size, the scale, and how much has already been automated. And I left with a complicated feeling. I think I asked our tour guide, who's wonderful, this sense that there are still human jobs, but I really can't help feeling they too are not long for this world for much longer. The rate at which, all the robots are learning, the AI, whenever Tesla's Optimus shows online, there were stations where humans were doing repetitive motions over and over again, which seeing that, doesn't feel great, though it was good to hear how Amazon seems to be really deeply engaged with offering learning and advancement opportunities for the people that wish to take them. So overall, I felt, yes, impressive tech. It's only going to get better. And it's a good company. I actually felt, the ethos and the spirit, relatively speaking, felt good to me.
Yeah, no argument. These are tough jobs, but Amazon pay, competitively. They pay more than minimum wage. And I think if you looked for like an equivalent job at the same sort of daily rate, probably working in an Amazon warehouse is going to be like safer, cleaner, better for your health. Plus you've got these other benefits. These are tough jobs at this sort of level of society, but like no disrespect to anybody who does them, right?
Yeah. And you know what else I had? I had a little bit of a futuristic thought. I think the way everything is going, like, autonomous driving, will get rid of a lot of parking lots, say. I really think Amazon will given like the size and scale of this thing, will probably just keep advancing and accelerating the rate at which they're building things and delivering things quickly with whatever drones or whatever the next thing will be. I bet you a lot of retail stores will also start going away because it just will become impossible to compete with, say, 1 hour delivery on most things or half the things. And I wonder what we'll do with all the free space, you know? And I bet you Amazon just starts growing vertically even more, so that 20 years from now, things like shopping might really become mostly for social reasons. You know, like almost like a museum. Like, oh, hey, how quaint. You could walk in and buy a thing. All the functional things will probably then be outsourced to something like, to whatever Amazon built. That's a kind of funky thought.
Yeah, well, I made that observation, I don't know, 10 episodes ago. Like the end state of shopping, at least for, you know, like groceries and basics and like some of your kind of commodity goods. Like the end state of that is shopping without shopping. Stuff just comes to you because like your personal AI knows what you need, and you know, Amazon has shipped something. It's about to arrive at your door before you even realize you need it. And then you open the package, you're like, oh, cool. Actually, yeah, that's really handy. I did need like a new HDMI cable. And if you didn't want it, you just like, you know, press a button and it disappears again. But you're right, like shopping is social already, but probably more so shopping for pleasure. It's a bad place to be, right? You don't want to be spending all of your money on just buying crap. But yeah,
it's the same thing that's being automated away at this phase of AI. All the laborish, manualish things that you really don't care about. There's no benefit to buying, you know, a functional item. And Amazon, is going gangbusters on automating all that stuff. So yes, I was impressed, Badge. You know what was underwhelming? The boring company tunnel feature. For me, maybe it was because it was very, very fast, and obviously it's not it really just kind of felt like I was driving in a car in a tunnel. Nothing about it blew my sockets. Did you have a different experience?
Well, we took two different Teslas because there were 8 of us, I think. And we had to get, you know, you only get 4 in a car with the driver. I was kind of hoping it would be autonomous Teslas in the tunnels. We went second. Our boring company journey was a little more exciting than yours because it was nearly a head-on collision. It was extraordinary. We have got it on video. It's Andrea's video. I don't know if she wants to do with it. But yeah, like so they've just opened a new route, which is where we got on, which was at, I forget, like some resort world. And we were trying to do like the longest journey, which was free journey, which was like Resort World to somewhere else. And I suppose they must have opened it recently, and our car was about to pull into the tunnel, and another Tesla came speeding out, and we knew like horns, you know, everyone was banging on horns, and everyone like came to a halt, and it's kind of jarring and exciting. So evidently the driver coming out with his passenger took the entrance tunnel, not the exit tunnel. So there's only actually like one tunnel connecting these things. But as you're right, they're quick journeys. Like our journey took maybe like, I don't know, 2 minutes to go a distance that would probably take like 20 minutes if you are on the surface. So there is like, the speed is a feature, not a bug, right? You want to get there quickly. When we're all bored of being in the tunnel, we just want to get to your destination. But they're single tunnels. So, you know, there's like a stop and go, like red light. And this guy just kind of made a wrong turn. He like came out of the entrance, not the exit. So I guess, you know, they'll figure that out. If it had been an autonomous driver, not a human driver, it probably wouldn't have made that error. But
yeah.
Oops.
So much better was the Zoox Robo taxi ride. And those are the autonomous vehicles being developed by Amazon. And I was shocked, Badge, at how thoroughly enjoyable and new that experience really felt, because it looks like a box and the 2 seats are facing one another. So it felt more like a train compartment, and we got to control our music. And for what was it, 15, 20 minutes? It drove us through Las Vegas, which is a complex, big city. And I felt completely at ease. Couldn't really see. We were looking at one another, so we're having conversations. There's no driver, there's no wheel, there's nothing. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, we're here, right? It's on. It is so on. Like, this thing is, humanity is not turning back. And it was viscerally exciting.
Yeah, that was also my highlight too. Zoox is owned by Amazon, so also, makes me feel good as an Amazon shareholder. Like, if you're not on the YouTubes, you didn't see the picture we just showed. Kind of imagine like a toaster, like that sort of shape, like a little like bread basket. And yeah, it's like 2 bench seats facing each other, so it takes like 4 passengers, and you're facing into the middle. Like, you could imagine that same form factor, which maybe has a bed. You just kind of go to sleep and wake up in another city. Or maybe has like like somewhere to plug in your laptop and like a meeting table and a conference, like camera. And you could take like a meeting when you're going from A to B. This is the future of transportation. It was fun. Like, the 4 of us, we weren't just sort of sitting there chilling out. We ended up like singing karaoke because we had the music cranked up, and then goggling at the strip going past us as we were, there's no driver. But you're right, you quickly got used to that.
Badge, do you think any other kinds of activities go on in there, in those cars, when no one's watching in Las Vegas?
Hey, I wouldn't like to think, but I wouldn't want to go in there with like a UV lamp just yet. Whatever happens in those cars, they're free at the moment. So if you're in Las Vegas or another location where they've got Zoox, and you can just install it on the App Store if you're in the US, Zoox. They're free to use right now. I'm sure like there's a ton of mischief that takes place, but that's all going to end up in like Amazon data centers on AWS. So, what happens in Zoox should stay in Zoox.
Right. Yeah, should. We know how the corporations like keeping data private for all the users. So we also went to the Sphere. And the Sphere we went to because, well, in part, if you longtime listeners might remember that Monkey did a safari stock dive on the Sphere, 2 years ago? I was fascinated by this giant digital ball that all of a sudden showed up in Las Vegas. And it was a complex investing situation because of the debt structure, and I talked about that a little bit, but I ended up taking a position in Sphere that is up pretty significantly, close to 300%, I think, for now. So, that's not a small gain. And so when the business all of a sudden starts really performing that exceptionally well, and it's still quite early, the playbook says investigate, learn as much about it as possible, and there's no better way than to go, feel, and experience. And we watched The Wizard of Oz, which is what, Badge? What did you, as somebody who is maybe more neutral about the company and the Sphere, what did you come away with?
My mind was blown. I was completely blown by how big it is. Right? And it's intimidatingly big when you're outside. And then, I said I got like vertigo. My vertigo was going wild as we were like going into our seats, because you're on this like incredible rake. And we had like really good height of seats for the Wizard of Oz, because we're actually quite high up, like the cheap seats really. But actually that was a good place to be, because you're kind of, you feel like the sky, it's almost like you're like a bird looking down into Kansas and Oz. And what a great job they did of remastering like what is like 100-year-old story, and bringing it into like the modern age.
Yeah, and more than remastering, you really have to go to experience it. By the way, I wrote about my experience on my firephilosophy.substack.com Substack. And what I chose to write about was the difference between, say, seeing something on the flat screen where it's just a movie or an image, even though it might be quite good, versus what the Sphere is now doing, which is immersing you in a bodily, tactile way. So wind blows, seats shake, apples literal foam apples fall from the sky, right? Leaves come out and paper leaves, but it's almost like a little bit of a carnival experience, and that does have a different embodied impact. So you could learn the lessons in a different way than merely intellectually. So a film like Wizard of Oz, which is really a philosophical film about how to live, and that looking over the rainbow isn't as successful a strategy as looking within yourself. Read my Substack if you're interested. To me, it made a huge difference seeing it in the way that the Sphere did it. So I was so happy with my investment to realize it's not a gimmick.
Yeah, I need to check out that as an investment again. Remember us talking about it nearly, 2 years ago? But having now experienced it, if they've got like a solid runway now of new venues, then that business model is going to be potentially quite exciting.
Yeah, I'll probably do on my to-do, I'll do a deeper dive for investors. It seems pretty juicy, although the valuation right now really caught up from the undervalued state it was 2 years ago. But anyway, that's besides the point. So yeah, that was really terrific. Should we talk about what was probably the highlight of the whole trip? And I know we must be thinking of the same thing that happened underneath the little green tent with green fairies.
What a show. Incredible. And what a great experience for our Patreons.
Can we say you think we could say a little bit more?
I think we can. I mean, we won't show the video clips, but they might feature in our year-end like drinking special. Yeah, so we went to see Absinthe, and the 8 of us had front row seats, and that worked out pretty well. What happened?
Yeah, you're still being coy. Let's just say it was a audience participation number, and a couple of our Patreons ended up being stars of the show in Las Vegas at what the Las Vegas natives themselves call the best show in Vegas. So if we really want to be pointed about it, Badge, and I'm not afraid to say it, our own Beasties were the best of the best in Vegas on the night we were there. And it was just a truly glorious, amazing thing that could only happen when you show up in the flesh and you go do things together. Just a lifetime memory. Amazing.
100%. Yeah, 100%. It couldn't have gone better. That was really good. And like, thank you, Aaron and Tiffany and Chris and Jennifer for being such good sports and bringing the energy. And thank you to all of our Patreons, the ones who showed up and the ones who engage with us like every week in the community. Because like, frankly, that's why Krzysztof and I do this podcast.
Badge. So based on most of the things that happened in Vegas, you started yapping in my ear as soon as you saw my death hangover kind of was blew away the next day about round 2. Because, right, we were so thrilled with what we saw is possible and the value of it. What are we thinking? What's next?
Yeah, summer 2027, somewhere European. Do we want to confirm the location, or we'll do a bit more DD first?
Well, we're doing a bunch of DD, but the number one contender right now is Warsaw. Not least because that's Monkey's hometown, but it's such a vibrant, up-and-coming city that's now been totally rebuilt. There's so much activity. It's just it's like a cool, like earlier, late 2000s Berlin. And I think we would have a massively successful and wonderful time there too. So that's the initial plan. And it being in Europe, with many of our listeners being based in Europe, much easier to get to for those folks. So that's the initial plan. Tell us what you think of the idea on the Patreons. Give us your comments there below on the YouTube channel where you're listening to us right now. Warsaw. Wall Street Wildlife does Warsaw. How's that sound?
Yeah. And I've only been to Warsaw. I've been to Poland a bunch of times. I've been to Warsaw once, and I came for a wedding in like December, and it was freaking cold. So we're definitely going to pick like a day in the calendar, probably July-ish, when the weather will be glorious, hopefully. And Poland does get lovely summers, so we want to get the best of that.
Yeah, and maybe our friends over at the Dividend Income podcast could join us too. So lots of possibilities.
Yeah, dividend talk with Edgy and Derek. Hopefully we can do a dividend talk Wall Street Wildlife live meetup next year. Although we are hoping to speak to them before then, because we are brewing the idea about doing another revisit to our podcast crossover.
Awesome. Badge, where we going next on today's show? Is there anything remaining on Vegas that we didn't speak about?
I mean, there's so much, but I think we should move on and do some actual investing due diligence. For anyone who's stuck with us for the first hour of this conversation, I hope it was entertaining and fun. So, Krzysztof, let's turn our minds to something slightly more serious. But you've built a tool. You've vibe coded a tool, which is getting incredible reviews already from our Patreon community. Why don't you tell our YouTube and Spotify community about the Investor's Mirror?
All right, Badge. So let me pull back the curtain a little bit about my process. I started with the Wall Street Wildlife Options University because I thought that is the thing that is most misunderstood, and that anybody that learns how to use options professionally or at a much higher level will do immense favors for their portfolios over the long term. So I put my heart and soul for a long time into creating that. As I did that, I found it was impossible for me to talk about options without talking about a lot of the behavioral psychology, including obviously risk and risk management, and how to not get caught in the bad side of options. So I was building those modules simultaneously, which then clearly led me to, what is it that you and I talk about a lot of the time outside of specific stocks? And we are kind of deep down a behavioral psychologist, philosophical, how to be a proper investor podcast. So I went ahead and I built the app that I wish had, somebody else had made for me. And over many, many iterations and adding more and more features, I was like, oh my God, this thing is good. This is good. This is a good thing that if used, people will become better investors. So pulling back the curtain a little bit, I learned that onboarding, when people find an app just out in the wild, you have to really get them committed, or else it's just another shiny thing. Download, don't use. And so my approach was to help investors really take a look at their habits and their patterns. And I did it through this 25-question quiz. That was the original state the app was in. You take the quiz. If you answer the questions thoughtfully, at the end comes an investing archetype, which then alerts you to your strengths and weaknesses. Or even if you don't think positive and negative, it's more like this is how your mind defaults to. Whether good or bad, you need to know that. So the app helps you do that in a really thoughtful way. And I think fun way. Maybe you could concur that you get an animal archetype at the end. Are you a impulsive cheetah? Are you an ostrich that buries its head in the sand? There's my man, the platypus, which of course is a kind of weird natural amalgam of different kinds of animals all in one. So anyway, investors go, you download the app, you take the quiz, you get an archetype. But I also learned that purely in the wild, when people don't know us and will find the app randomly, they need more of the kind of, the proper onboarding process, which it has a little quicker acting mechanism. So I recreated the quiz to be just 4 questions so that, you open the app, you answer 4 questions rather than 25, and that gives you a taste of the archetype that you get. And then once you're in the app, you go deeper and get the fuller profile, what it looks like, just to get, so you guys watching this on YouTube could get a sense of some of the different modules I made. And if I don't say so myself, without going through all the many features, which I hope to do in future episodes, that 4-question quiz immediately gives you a lot to think about, as a good mirror will. So Badge, would you mind going through these 4 questions with me now and what it reveals, what it kind of points to?
Sure.
Awesome. So you open the app, you take the quiz. First question is, your stock drops 20% after you researched it for weeks. What is your first move? A, panic sell immediately to stop the pain. Average down because you believe in the thesis. Check what everyone else on Twitter is saying. Check if the thesis is broken. If not, hold.
Clearly, to me, D, check if the thesis is broken. If not, hold. Because it's a 20% drop. Like if it had been, say, a 5% drop, I might just average down because I believe in the thesis, but 20% is quite material. So like something is in the news that's making it look a bit wonky.
Yeah. All right. 2, how do you size a brand new position in the company you're excited about? A, start small and scale if the thesis plays out. B, go all in because conviction demands it. C, wait for a pullback. You always buy dips. D, research more and wait.
I do this. I start small and scale in. Like I've said it in recent episodes, I'll often start small on very thin due diligence for like a 0.5% position just to give myself skin in the game.
All right. Very good. 3, you are up 50% on the position and the news is glowing. What do? A, sell to lock in gains. No one ever went broke taking a profit. B, hold. The thesis is intact. C, trim some and park cash for the next opportunity. D, add more. The trend is your friend.
I haven't really got an answer for this one because it could be any of those 4. But if I wasn't overexposed and if the thesis was intact, then it's probably B, hold. The thesis is intact. But if something's looking good, like I'm happy to add to my winners. And if I'm overexposed, I'm happy to trim, even though like I feel solid about a stock.
Excellent. Last intro question. You are an expert you respect tells you your biggest holding is doomed. What happens? A, they are probably right. Start selling. Thank them, then check their track record. Thank them, and then actually check whether they are right. Ignore them. They do not understand the thesis.
Probably C, thank them, and then check whether they're right.
Yeah. All decent answers. There's a lot more complexity to all of that. Here's the interesting thing. If you mostly picked A, you are archetyped as a panicking deer. Mostly Bs get the overconfident gorilla. Mostly Cs are the herd buffalo. And mostly D is the balanced tortoise. Now, obviously, this is, an engagement tool to get people deeper into the app where the nuances of all these things start revealing themselves. But an interesting thing happened just the other day. As our patrons are exploring this app, we're getting feedback that many of them taking this quiz or the more sophisticated quiz are getting the balanced turtle as their archetype, which in many ways is sort of the aspirational creature you want. Certainly compared to the panicking deer, the balanced turtle is better, quote unquote. But I began to wonder how much of the, say, the reporting when you take a quiz like this is because you could feel what the answer should be and it's aspirational versus what you actually do in real life when bad things happen or when things are complicated and uncertain. And my true, legitimate thesis is that there is a massive gap between what we know we should do and what we actually do. And I'm a living example of that for in many situations. My wiring, say, overwhelms the, call it knowledge base. And so the rest of the app essentially is built to provide the tools and the structures to help people slow down and actually learn the behaviors. And I'll go over them in future episodes, but it's not enough to quote unquote know the right answer, if that makes sense. For all our listeners on YouTube and then Patreon, if you haven't yet, this QR code will take you to the Apple Store where you could download the app and begin investigating yourself and what kind of investor you think you are, and then actually using some of the tools to get more data. Can't wait to talk to you more about this badge as I'm continuing to make it better. I think it's a great, I'm sorry, I'm maybe blowing smoke up my own ass, but I think it's a great tool that will truly help people apply the stuff we talk about.
Good stuff. I can't install it because I'm an Android, not an Apple person. But if it's in the Options University, I'll go play with it there.
And I will make a Android port soon. I just have more things to add between now and then.
Us poor second-class citizens. Oh well, no mirror for us. Good job. Well done. And I'm also now, like, you've got me started. You've got a fire lit in me around using some of these tools like Claude Code to build stuff. So I'm also now beavering away, building something, which I'm keeping on the back burner for now, but could be quite exciting if you're interested in very early stage investing.
Ooh, yay! Awesome. All right. We are Badge.
So long conversation, but before we wrap up this week, Krzysztof, I would like to field a question we got on Spotify from Nigel. Nigel said, I'll be interested to know more about investing outside of the US. Very timely question, Nigel, because like, let's say up until 2 or 3 months ago at the start of this year, like the US valuations of US stocks, and like the US market is mostly really, let's face it, the Mag 7, incredible concentration to those small number of companies, 7 of them, and like a wild, almost essentially 15-year bull run for like growth tech. So the US has been a very expensive place to invest. And so I think looking outside the US and trying to be a bit more diversified into international stocks and also into non-tech stocks, I think that's like a smart thing for an investor to do, at least to consider that. So let's just touch on a few of the considerations. But you know, by the way, the valuations of some of those like crazily valued tech stocks has now come down like materially in the last couple of months. I'm not going to make any predictions about which way it's going to go. The US is probably still very expensive compared to many other markets, but perhaps they're starting to see a few bargains. So where else might an investor look? China, maybe. I've recently sold my last remaining Chinese stock, which was BYD, the car company, Build Your Dreams, just because China's complex. But China, certainly an interesting market. And if you look at what's happening in the Middle East right now, maybe potentially even more interesting longer term, especially if like Iranian oil starts trading in like yuan, Chinese currency, rather than dollars. Again, not making any predictions about what's happening in the world, but maybe getting some non-dollar exposure could be beneficial to you as an investor. India, you and I are fans of India. We have been for a long time. It is quite an expensive market though. It's a bit of a crowded trade, incredible demographics, but you're paying a hefty price, and maybe it's kind of priced for perfection a little bit. I think Europe is worth a thought, and I'll sort of bucket the UK into that as well, really. It is regulatory heavy in Europe. There are complexities investing in Europe. If you're a US citizen wanting, let's take a real example. Say a US citizen wanting to invest in some sort of European equity or British equity, there are a few things to be aware of. Your broker may or may not allow you to buy directly on those exchanges, but you can sometimes find GDRs, global depository receipts, so like US versions of overseas stocks, or ADRs, American depository receipts. Same thing. There's like ADRs at the moment, for example, for Wise, the FX money transfer experts. Wise are planning to relist into the UK, I think, in the next few months, sometime in 2026. But right now, if you wanted to own Wise, you could buy it on the London Stock Exchange, or you could buy the US version of it, which is ticker WIZEY, YZ. If you're confused by ADRs and GDRs, I'll drop a link in the show notes to an article I wrote a couple of years ago, but it's kind of evergreen, just gives you a lot of background on what an ADR is and when you should consider using it. There are a couple of structural things to be aware of when you invest outside of the US. So the accounting rules are a bit different. US companies have to comply with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. And actually that's not applied in Europe. In Europe and in the UK, we have IFRS, which is the International Financial Reporting Standards. It's not wildly different to GAAP, and in some ways might even be superior. But IFRS leans more, rather than on very, very strict rules, more like principles, and there's some judgment allowed. So you got to be careful that when you're looking at a European or British equity, it's not the same accounting basis that you may be used to, and also not the same reporting basis. So I know that there's been a proposal in the US to not require companies to report quarterly. Well, that's already the case in Europe and the UK. You have to report formally. You have to have like your annual report, and then you have to have a semi-annual report, which goes out, on the 6-month point. So you're going to get reporting as an investor every 6 months. The reality is most companies issue like a trading update every quarter, but they're not required to. So, you might find that getting that insight is a bit delayed. Question, probably beyond the scope of this conversation, but, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe companies shouldn't have to report every quarter, because maybe that forces the board to be a bit short-termist in its thinking. But, maybe you have a view on that as an investor yourself. So anyway, quite different. I think this is a really, really good question to ask, Nigel. And I think the timing is good to be looking outside the US and just get some geographic exposure. What do you think, Krzysztof?
Yeah, I think directionally it's wise. There was a chart I think we talked about in the previous episode that shows the breakout of non-US equities on the technical sense starting to show signs of life, which is exactly when you ought to start paying more attention. As you were talking, I was drifting a little bit to Africa. Forgive me, but I was thinking, talk about, a massive opportunity, but more specifically, it's because in the context of ASTS being on the verge of bringing billions of people into the developed world through connectivity, theoretically at the end of this year, a place like Africa, which still has these essential missing links that might be solved soon, I would myself want to start poking around more diligently about the companies that have a head start and have maybe already built something. At this point, it will be, my guess is I'm not going to discover anything that's not super, super risky. But, being early to a trend like that, if you're right about it, that'll pay nicely. So I like this frame in general. The only other comment I'd say is that I'm curiously skeptical about Europe. And I think it's, I don't know, if I think it through, it's maybe because, as you said, it's so regulation heavy at a moment where AI is breaking all the rules. So when I compare what's probably going to happen in a deregulated in general or more deregulated space like the US versus all the red tape in Europe at an accelerated and exponentially increasing pace as an investor, purely through an investing framework, I don't see why I would want my money more in European companies that are deliberately hamstringing themselves, because that rate of growth is just going to be astronomical to the successful ones. So I'm a bit ambivalent.
I think we can explore that properly next year, right? Because if we're coming to Warsaw, there's probably a whole bunch of interesting European brands that we should be learning more about ourselves. And, you know, we'll do a Polish version of our Vegas tech tour where we go look up like a bunch of Polish and European companies, perhaps.
And one last follow-up. My memory is that your investment in the India ETF that you bought, what is it, over a year ago now, that's one of your laggards in the King of the Jungle portfolio. Is that right?
Yes, correct. I've owned it in my retirement portfolio for maybe nearly 5 years now. But yeah, it's underperforming.
So that's curious to me too, because yes, it's a crowded trade, and yes, it is demographically based. So there is it takes time to build all of the, say, physical infrastructure. But obviously it's not good that that particular investment lagged the markets for a decent amount of time. But that also means the spring, if we're right about directionality, the spring is probably more coiled than it was some years ago. So perhaps we should revisit, do more research about India in some coming episodes.
Yeah, that'd be good. I agree. That would be valuable for me.
And my Nintendo is my beloved Nintendo is actually back to really, really, really enticing valuations, and that has Japan all over it. So if you have not looked into Nintendo, I highly encourage you to do so at this particular moment, especially.
Good stuff. So thank you, Nigel, for the question. And do keep the questions coming. We've got another great question on Spotify a few days ago. But we're going to field that next week because it needs us to go down the rabbit hole a little bit with a particular biotech company.
Awesome. Before we close though, Badge, let's thank Fiscal AI, which is our essential stock research platform. We use it literally every day. It's our one-stop shop for basically so much that we do, offering 20 years of global financial data. It's the largest company-specific and KPI data set out there. They're continuously building. They're making expansions into now, I believe, European tracking, right? And European holding. There's just, earnings calls, transcripts, ownership data, research reports. It's all there. Use our link, fiscalai.wildlife, for 2 free weeks of Fiscal Pro, no credit card needed, and a 15% discount if you upgrade. That's fiscal.ai/wildlife. Do this, listeners. Do not do this.
I mean, it will make you a better investor, with no doubt.
Are you ready to become a beast of an investor?
Your journey starts right here.
A reminder that the people on this program may hold positions in the companies that are mentioned. Buying and selling stock carries financial risk, which could include loss of capital. The views in this program should not be taken as personalized advice. Before acting on any of the information provided, listeners are encouraged to consult a financial or tax professional.